Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Well, hello there.
Well, hello, Michael Moore. We are men bashing right now. We're talking about welcome to
I hate
highly
myself. I hate myself right
circumcised. We're not really, but we're talking this week about disparity in pay between women and men. And we started off with the LFG documentary. It's on HBO right now with the women's soccer team and how they are getting paid less, and they're actually fighting it against their U.S. Soccer Federation. But we want to take the debate, and in that instance, it really looks like a massive disparity. You're like, what is even happening? But now we want to spread it out and look at how about women in entirety of sports? How about, where did this come from? Because I think maybe with the soccer federation, it is bleeding over from other sports, because specifically, I'll let you talk about this, but I know at the poker table, the WNBA is called a joke. I've never once seen a game, so I'll let you take it from here.
Well, we need to go to a game so you can just see how whack it is. But anyway, so I'm of the opinion, that the U.S. women's soccer team suffers from being associated with all other women's sports, and that's just the long and the short of it.
Which would make sense why it's happening. I mean, it at least gives an answer to an acceptable answer to the story, because it really just doesn't seem to make sense at all, the way, the huge disparity.
Right. So I've actually pulled up some numbers here, just to sort of give an idea on what the pay gap looks like in various sports. Now, before I tell you this, let me just let you know that my personal thought is that there are 2, possibly 3 sports where I feel like women should be equally paid, and those for me are soccer, tennis, and maybe golf, but golf probably not. I probably should just stick with 2. So tennis and soccer for me are 2 sports where women are just absolutely screwed over by.
Yeah, and I would say probably not golf, because I don't think, I mean, if you're talking about bringing in viewership on TV, I mean, it's probably women don't, right?
The women haven't had a Tiger Woods figure, so I don't know if you're aware of this, but like whether golfers loved him or hated him, everybody loved Tiger Woods being involved in any tournament, because the dollars went up so much for the prize pool, because the pot was so big based on viewership and advertising and all the stuff that goes into their prize money. So Tiger Woods was just great for golf. For everybody. I don't care if you were at the bottom of the leaderboard or the top of the leaderboard. If you were playing in a tournament that he was in, you were going to make some more money. And the women just haven't had that. They don't have that figure. Michelle Wie some years ago was kind of thought to be like on that path, or she was going to be like the female sort of Tiger Woods. But as far as I know, there's nobody even akin to him on the women's tour. But anyway, so if you look at average pay, I'm just going off average pay, and this is from 2019, by the way, because obviously we don't have a sample for 2020 because most sports were shut down for most, if not all, of 2020. So the last real full year of sports for men and women was 2019. And the average NBA player made $8,321,937. The average female player made $75,181. Okay.
Wow. And that's
I mean, that's not even a disparity. That's anyway.
Well, and maybe you can address that really quickly, is that even though this is not my words, trust me, but even though many men will say it's a joke, right? WNBA, isn't that disparity isn't that disparity still excessive? 75,000 compared to 8.7 million?
So let me just say, I don't think that the WNBA is a joke. I think those girls get out there and they work hard, and they're entertaining for someone. I'm not their demographic, because I'm not really entertained by the WNBA. But if you just look at what men can do athletically on a basketball court versus what women can do athletically on a basketball court, there's just no real comparison. And that's just, that's sort of a biological fact. Like, there are a couple women who can dunk, right? But a woman's dunk is like, she literally can jump and she can dunk it because she's tall enough and can get high enough. Whereas
A layup.
yeah, okay, but men are like acrobatic when they do it. We're talking like 360-degree windmill, tomahawk, just crazy dunks, right? So for instance, like 20 years ago, I could dunk a basketball, but I couldn't do it anywhere near like what an NBA professional can do. But I could dunk better than, like, say, the best woman dunker. So for me, it's not real entertaining because I'm like, oh shit, I could do that.
That disparity, like 8.7 million, 75. Do you think that is warranted even? I mean, I would say
Yes.
so. In really okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
in this sport specifically, you can understand the difference in pay, because to me it's like, oh well, are they bringing in viewership? No. Is anyone coming to the stands? No. Are they so they're not bringing money in. That's where you see the disparity in the women's soccer, where they're bringing all the people in, they're adding all the money there, and they're still getting paid less, right?
Yes,
Like
that is why you get the yes from me that the disparity in that sport is warranted, because I'll tell you why. Because there is a multi-years long waiting list for people to get courtside seats to Laker games. You cannot just go to Ticketmaster right now and get a courtside seat to a Laker game. And if you were able to, it still would cost you tens of thousands of dollars. There's no human being that would pay more than, I'll just throw out a number, $1,000 for a courtside seat at probably any women's basketball game. And that's not to disparage women. That's because of my point, which is just, it's not as entertaining a product as the men's basketball. But conversely, the reason why there's such, in my opinion, a huge issue as it pertains to the U.S. women's soccer team is because they can get the same ticket prices. You and I will pay the same.
They get more.
They do. Mm-hmm. So not only do they get more viewers on average than the men, but the average person that is a soccer fan, like me, my brother, my nephew, my kids, all these people that I know that love soccer, we would definitely pay the same amount of money to see a women's soccer game as a man's soccer game. But I honestly, unless I knew somebody in the game or my daughters were in the game or whatever, like, you couldn't get me to pay more than like $20-25. And I'm not exaggerating that. Like, I wouldn't pay more than $20-25 to see a professional women's basketball game.
Okay, so we're talking about two extremes. Now, you said you had the women's soccer, which clearly should be paid more but are still paid less. So women's basketball, which are paid less, and we believe that it's warranted to some extent, although I still feel that disparity is massive. I feel like there could be some more there. But anyways, what about, you said you had some other facts about like tennis, and did you have some numbers?
So, and by the way, I know that we've talked about this, but I want to throw this number out here. The average U.S. men's soccer player makes $410,000. The average U.S. women's were at $35,000. So that's just, because you said in the last episode you were kind of talking about Megan Rapinoe, and I'm telling you, even someone who's got the big name that she doesn't even come close to a man's pay. So they actually give baseball versus women's softball statistics here. I've never seen a professional women's softball game, but the average men's baseball player makes $4,031,000 and some change every year. The average women's softball player makes $6,000.
I've never even seen it. Do they even average? Do they even put on TV?
I didn't even know there's an MPF league. So there's a professional league for women to play softball, not baseball. So I guess it's like fast pitch, underhand kind of thing. So lastly, and I didn't even know this until I just glanced at it, the actual smallest disparity in any sport would be tennis, because the average men's tennis player makes around $335,000 a year, and the average women's tennis player makes $283,000. $1,000 per
And
year.
again, none of these numbers are counting sponsorship, right? These are just
salary. These are
Okay.
just straight salary from the sport. If you wanted to look at salary combined with endorsements, then I actually have that too, but I have that on an individual basis. But just so you know, the highest paid with salary and endorsements, like 9 of 10 of them are all tennis players, and the only soccer player that made the list was not Megan Rapinoe. It was actually Alex Morgan, who's the highest paid female soccer player, including endorsements, which dwarf her salary.
So, well, I mean, I guess it's positive. You see in tennis. I mean, again, tennis is another sport where you want to watch the women just as much as men, I would say.
Right.
You know, and
definitely.
But still, what was it, 250 to 3 something? So there's still
it was 283 to 335. So
it's getting closer.
Around 50,000 a year difference.
And so I guess we can say we're gonna hope this pay gap is closing over time, but it's still fascinating to me that, you know, if we take the WNBA out of it, because clearly there's a big disparity between the men and women in playing basketball. But if you take all these other like individual sports or soccer where the women are just way better in our country anyways, and you ask the question like, well, if a woman does the same job, shouldn't she get the same pay? And you're like, yeah, but then, you know, you took the deal, like, but why aren't they offered the same deal? You know, like, and we can go into, you know, and we're going to round it off for our next episode with taking this question across all jobs, right? You know, women habitually getting underpaid for every job. And there's been this big debate, like, well, if a woman can do the same job, then they can, but they can't. And so, I mean, we'll take that, I guess, to the next one. But in these instances, clearly, like in tennis, they're clearly doing the same job. In soccer, they're clearly doing the same job. In both of those cases, you know, some could debate that they're doing better. I mean, I really love to watch women's tennis. I don't watch as much men's, although I enjoy men's as well. I don't watch a lot of sports, period. So it's hard for me to understand the statistics of the women's in soccer, and to see that, to me, I just find it so interesting that they're even fighting this in court, that they even allowed this to go to court. But I guess I'm glad I am, because this is what change needs. I guess it needs a voice. It needs to be put out. It needs for people like us to be talking about it. So,
well, I personally definitely would love to see. I think anybody should get paid what they're worth, no matter what the industry, no matter what the job may be. You should get paid what you're worth. But I also don't think there should be like this sort of blanket equalization, because again, if you look at something like WNBA versus NBA, that's not a like product. That's like, to me, saying like you should pay the same for a Honda Civic as you do for a Mercedes S-Class, right? It's just not the same. So someone's getting screwed in that in that formula if everyone's getting paid the exact same.
And I agree with you. I think that's too what happens. I think there might have been, I didn't watch this enough, but there might have been like what's Biden's wife's name?
Dr. Jill.
Didn't she just try to push a bill through that would actually create equal pay for women? And then there was talk about this, and for exactly that. You can't just blanket statement say everyone gets paid the same. No, not necessarily. You get paid for the work that you do. And I think that's what I would try to debate here, is that in these instances, these women are far outworking their pay. But not only that, they're not, when they try to ask for some, let's work some balance, let's fix it, then they're getting pushed right, like, no, you're not worth it. Like, okay. So this is where I feel like it does come to like a systemic issue.
Well, definitely we should talk about this a bit more in the next episode.
Okay.
Because it's going to be more of a cultural look at pay and value in terms of women versus men. But I will say that tennis to me is the best sort of model because basically like Serena plays a tournament and she's like the Tiger Woods of tennis, so women's tennis. So the prize pool goes up and everybody loves when Venus is in a tournament, regardless whether she wins or loses, the money's going to go up because the television viewership is going to go up. So advertising dollars are going to go up. But there has to be a real look at what's fair and equitable for everybody, because even if you're a man and you're putting in way more work and you're putting out a way better product, then you should get way more pay. But if your product is about the same, then you're you're getting the same sort of, love from the people in terms of viewership and all of that, then you deserve to make what the next person makes, the next man, and I mean mankind, men and women. So yeah, let's take it to a big picture sort of look in the next episode. Yeah.
Okay.
Peace.